Hi, welcome to Programming with Mesh. In this video, we want to review the best Android emulators for running and debugging React Native projects. You must first make sure that the CPU virtualization feature is enabled. You can see this in the Task Manager on the CPU tab. Here my CPU is Intel and the virtualization is enabled. If this feature is not enabled, you can enable it through the BIOS depending on your device. Well, now we start with the first emulator, which is the built-in emulator of Android Studio. To have this emulator, you must download and install Android Studio from here according to your operating system. Well, I already installed and run it. On the main page, open the SDK Manager via this option. Here are the different versions of the SDK platforms and tools available. Using this option, we can see the details of the packages. Install the version of the Android API on which you want to run your emulator. And to run the emulator faster, depending on your CPU model, also install System Image. Also, if your CPU model is Intel, you can install this option from the SDK Tools section to run the emulator with better performance. Well, now we choose AVD Manager from here. Here I have already created two emulators. Using this button, you can create a new emulator. Here is a list of default emulators. You can choose one of them or create your own with the desired specifications. For example, I choose Pixel 5. In the next step, you must select the Android version on which the emulator runs. I have downloaded the API level 30 here and selected it. In the next step, you can change some of the specifications of the Android virtual device. Make sure this option is on automatically so that the emulator can use your graphics hardware properly. You can change the rest of the settings to your liking, but if this is the first time you are creating an emulator, it's better to use the default settings. Well, the emulator is created correctly. You can edit it at any time through its options. If you look closely at the previous emulators that I created, you can see that they take up more space on the disk. And this is due to the extra data that is stored in them after creation. Using the wipe data option, you can delete all the extra data from the emulator, in which case the emulator will run like the first time. As you can see, about 8 GB of disk space is released. Well, now using this button, we run the emulator we created. In the first run, it takes a little longer for you to use it. Well, the emulator worked properly. Now run a sample React Native project on it. The emulator is automatically detected by ADB and the app runs on it. And as you can see, it's completely connected to the Metro. Next to the emulator is a very useful toolbar that can be very helpful in performing tests. Device lock and unlock button, volume up and down buttons, device rotation buttons, screenshot button from the emulator screen, on-screen zoom button, and 3 back, home, and options buttons at the bottom of Android devices. You can also use this option to access more features. Ability to assign a specific location. Ability to connect more displays. Ability to change mobile network information. Ability to change battery information. Ability to display custom photos in the simulated environment of the rear camera. For example, here I add the screenshot we took on the wall and table. And if we go to the camera environment, we can see these photos. This option enables or disables the animation displayed on the TV. By holding down the Alt key and the WASD keys, you can move around like a game. And as you can see, the image we added can be seen on the wall and on the table. Using this option, we can make voice calls and send SMS. Ability to use the arrow keys. Ability to simulate external microphones and headsets. Ability to simulate a fingerprint sensor. Ability to manually adjust the values of motion sensors. Ability to record videos from the emulator screen. and other settings related to how to run the emulator. Android Studio is by far the fastest and most feature-rich option on this review. You can run vanilla Android, download apps from the Google Play Store as you normally would, add custom launchers and keyboards, and emulate any size or form factor device. You can even try out foldable devices. The next emulator we are looking at is Genymotion. Through this page, you can install it according to your operating system. Install it with VirtualBox for the first time, and the next time you can install the version without VirtualBox for the update. This emulator is free for personal use and development of Android apps. Well, I have the latest version installed and run it. You can use this button to create a new device. You can see the list of available devices here. And you can filter the list based on your target from this section. For example, I want to create a device with Android 10, and here I select Pixel 3. You can change its specifications here. For example, I enable this option to open the virtual keyboard to write texts in the emulator. Now we are waiting for the device to be created. Well, the device is created successfully. We can run it here or through the device options. Well, the emulator worked properly. Now we will run the project again to run on Genymotion this time. As you can see, the app ran properly and is connected to the Metro. You can also use the toolbar features in your tests. Ability to rotate the device. Ability to zoom in on the screen. Ability to take photos and videos from the screen. Ability to change battery information. Ability to change device location information. Ability to set external cameras as the back and front camera of the device. Ability to use the remote control. Ability to change device IDs. Ability to change network information. And the buttons at the bottom of Android devices. Also, in more options, You can use this option to install Google services on the device. After completing the installation, the emulator must be restarted once so that you can use Google services. And as you can see, Google Play Service and Play Store are properly installed on the device. It's also possible to make voice calls and send SMS in the toolbar. Genymotion lets you test your apps on a variety of devices without owning them. You can configure the emulator for a variety of devices with various versions of Android to help suit your needs. Its most useful feature is its availability on both your desktop computer and the cloud. Those without powerful computers can make Genymotion's servers do all the work for them. The next emulator we are reviewing is BlueStacks, the latest version of which you can download and install it from here. Using this emulator is also free. Well, I already have it installed and run it. This emulator is designed for playing Android games, and its stable version runs on Android 7. However, it's a good option for running and debugging Android applications, especially for those who use AMD CPUs. Google services are installed on it by default, and as you can see, the display is on tablet mode by default. To run and debug projects directly, through Settings, Advanced section, we must enable this option to have the device detected by ADB. Also, from the Display section, set the display mode of the device to Portrait so that the device runs like an Android phone. Now restart the emulator to apply the changes. Well, the emulator worked properly. Now I run the project again to run on the BlueStacks emulator. As you can see, the app ran properly and is connected to the Metro, and you can debug it. In some cases, ADB may not automatically detect the emulator. In this case, you can find the IP connection to the emulator from the advanced settings. Then connect it to ADB using the ADB connect command. You can also see the list of devices running and connected to ADB using the ADB devices command. There are also features similar to previous emulators in the sidebar. In addition, you can install APK files directly in this emulator. BlueStacks is known by many users to be the most comprehensive Android app player in the market, and with good reason. Aside from running on both Windows and Mac, this emulator comes jam-packed with a ton of features to improve the gamer's experience. So there we go, we got acquainted with the best Android emulators for running and debugging Android apps. You can use them to test Android apps based on your operating system and the needs of an emulator. Now, if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.